indigenous peoples under the slogan, Leaving No One Behind. In this edition, we spotlight on the daily lifestyles of the Bororo community in the north and the Baka Pygmies in the south. 5 days after a series of road accidents in the country that claimed over 40 lives and left several others seriously injured, the question now is, who is to blame? The 7:30 newscast tonight probes into the causes and consequences. The fight against COVID-19 is set to enter higher gear with the arrival of close to 16,000 doses of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. The consignment is the largest to be received by any African country. And these stories and more right ahead. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thanks for joining us on this edition of the 7:30 News with me, Gladys Tata.
I urge you once again to put on your face masks, to wash your hands regularly, and to consult a physician or any other health personnel if you notice any symptoms. This is the only way to save lives and to curb the spread of the virus.
Welcome back. Week-long activities to mobilize stakeholders on the plight of indigenous peoples have culminated in the celebration of the 27th edition of the Day with focus on promoting their rights. In Cameroon, it is the 13th consecutive year the event is being celebrated to raise awareness on the integration of indigenous peoples into the society. The day is marked by a ceremony presided over by the Minister of Social Affairs, Pauline Irengene, who launched the campaign to advocate for the consolidation of peace and to the promotion of living together and intercommunity dialogue. The caravan is led by the young Bororo and Baka people in a campaign which is one of this year's innovations, coming on the sidelines of the consultation organized last Friday to reflect on how to take into account the well-being of indigenous people in the planning of regional development. Beatrice Ngom tells us more.
They have lived with their host communities for several decades, yet have not been able to fully enjoy their rights. They say they suffer stigmatization because of their lifestyle.
We have farmer-grazer conflict, but we have also climate change which reduce a lot our pasturage area. We have insecurity in the bushs. Many industries are destroying the forest and then destroying the lifestyle of the indigenous people there.
And so, as Cameroon joins the rest of the world Monday to celebrate the International Day of the Indigenous People, their cry is for a respect of their identity.
Our traditional medicine, our pastorals, our know-how should be considered, and then this will be a plus for every Cameroonian.
The Ministry of Social Affairs is also using the occasion to call on development partners to involve indigenous people in regional development plans and also in peace-building initiatives.
Things are being done, but we think that we have to continue to make efforts to make sure that no one is left behind. How will be the campaign? I think that we already have some groups. They will work with these young people to sensitize the population on peace, living together.
The campaign will be championed by young Pygmy and Bororo people from all 10 regions of the country.
The Bororo people are the main indigenous community in the North region. Despite integration effort by government, this group of persons are still marginalized. On the occasion of the International Day of Indigenous Peoples, our North regional correspondent Wilson Mengole looks at the daily activities of the Bororo community and efforts made by government to protect their rights. Wilson?
The North region harbors over 10,000 Bororo people spread across the localities of Kismatari, Jumasi, and a host of others. Bororo women can be found in one of the markets in Karua in a cheerful disposition. They sit daily behind their calabashes selling milk produced locally from cows.
Their work is cattle rearing. Most children begin school and after 3 months they abandon and go to the field.
Apart from petty trading by the women, the Mbororo community in the north equally strives to succeed in other spheres of life. The regional delegation of social affairs in the north has been sensitizing indigenous people and the public in general on the importance of education and social integration.
Every day, our structures sensitize them to know their rights.
The officials reiterate that promoting the integration of these indigenous people is important, considering their significant role in sustaining cultural diversity in the region.
And the 10th edition of the African Day for Decentralization will be observed tomorrow, Tuesday, August 10, 2021. In prelude, a conference debate on the National Training Program for Urban Professions has held in Yaoundé, bringing together council staff and heads of decentralized services. This year's theme is developing activities around cultural heritage as a means of building the identity of the city and promoting the city's brand image and territorial marketing. The program is to help the councils appropriate and master the competencies transferred to them in order to help with the delivery of quality services to the beneficiary populations. Defaulters of road safety measures will face the heavy arm of the law. This is one of government's recent decisions made over the weekend in a press release by the Minister of Territorial Administration, Paul Atanganji. The release instructs regional governors to take measures to limit road accidents, especially by heavy freight transporters, and sensitize them on the need to use rest spots. Constantine Bomb in the following report says sanctions will be both administrative and judicial to reckless drivers as well as owners of vehicles.
Thing running in the minds of all these travelers is to get safely to their destinations. Many had wished for that but never made it home. The accidents are just too recurrent. 40 people died last week, a disturbing situation to the nation. According to a press release of the Minister of Territorial Administration, the government will be hard on persons found guilty. Governors of the 10 regions will be at the forefront to implement sanctions.
The situation is worrisome. We need to pass into action. The sanctions can range from detaining the vehicle for a certain number of days, taking the documents of the vehicle, withdrawing the driver's license, withdrawing the transporter's license.
Sensitization has not been very successful, therefore, judicial sanctions will accompany administrative ones.
There are certain aggravating circumstances against drivers in case of road accidents. Article 290 of the Penal Code states that the sanctions are doubled when a driver is driving in a state of drunkenness. When a driver is driving without the requisite driving license, the prison term goes from 3 months to 5 years imprisonment, and then with a fine or a fine option of 10,000 to 500,000 francs.
These unfortunate accidents occurred in the midst of a special road safety campaign, and these now highlight the negligence on the one hand of intercity transport companies and on the other hand of freight carriers.
4 days after last Thursday's separate fatal car accidents in some highways in and around the Central region, victims who sustained varying degrees of injuries are responding to treatment in different health facilities. Our reporter Gerald Nanjie-Yambe visited some of these hospitals in Yaoundé to gauge how the victims are faring. Here is his report for the 7:30 News.
Here at the Yaoundé Central Hospital, 3 victims of last Thursday's fatal road accidents are currently receiving treatment. The survivors, who were initially received at the emergency center, are responding to treatment. At the Yaoundé Referral Hospital, 1 accident victim is on intensive care. The driver of the bus involved in the Hawaii incident is amongst the survivors.
We received the patient 2 days ago at our emergency center where the trauma team was activated, where we easily realized that the primary survey was okay, but the secondary survey had a large wound on the scalp that was bleeding. He was resuscitated, then the wounds were taken care of. He has been feeling fine. He has no major complaint up to this day, where he is able to eat alone. He has to be able to talk with the families, so we think he's out of danger.
For the management of the travel agency, the situation deserves their utmost attention.
I used to visit all hospitals where our passenger to see evolution of treatment. Our medicine, they are very professional. Since our boss made accident, they have good treatment, and I think I'm very satisfied.
Meanwhile, 3 victims are in intensive care at the Yaoundé Military Hospital, said to be in a critical but stable conditions.
Overspeeding continues to take blame for the numerous road accidents in the country. The state equally takes its own share of this blame. The recent surge in road accidents has therefore prompted questions on the relevance of continuous road safety campaigns. Elvis Taker in the following report reads meaning into the solution.
According to statistics from the Ministry of Transport, 70% of road accidents in Cameroon are caused by human error, 20% by bad state of vehicles, and 10% by the state of the road. The 2019 report also indicates that about 52% of vehicles in Cameroon are older than 15 years, consequently not roadworthy. These statistics have been corroborated by the National Gendarmerie that has been carrying out a road safety campaign dubbed Control, Surveillance, Repression since 2011.
The campaigns seek essentially to sanction offences that might lead to accidents, amongst which is the non-respect of speed limits, non-wearing of seat belt. We pay particular attention on good driving practices.
The gendarmes contain that overspeeding remains the most recurrent offense and the principal cause of accidents.
Road accidents, the main offender is the driver.
According to observations, accidents occur when heavy-duty trucks park along the narrow highways and turn them into death traps. Other times, drivers often comply with speed limits only when close to the checkpoints, but speed up excessively afterwards. Some transporters even fall asleep on the steering wheel due to fatigue from several trips.
In other news, economic and financial programs to relaunch the economies of CEMAC member states hit by insecurity, fall in fuel prices, and the COVID-19 pandemic are being reviewed in Douala in the littoral region. This is within the framework of the 14th session of the follow-up cell of the reforms program known as CEMAC and the extraordinary session of ministers of the Economic Community of Central African States that opens on August 10, 2021. Alphonse Abongwa Achu reports from CRTV Littoral in Douala.
Between 2017 and 2020, the economic and financial reforms programs established by CEMAC leaders to redress the sub-region from security shocks and dwindling fuel prices have produced positive results, some of which include the increase in tax revenues, improvement in public spending, effective fusion of the stock market, amongst others. However, 2020 came with the COVID-19 pandemic affecting the economies of the sub-region. Leaders of the community through the follow-up committee reunite in Douala to assess measures taken to relaunch this second phase of the reforms program that will span between 2021 and 2025.
We have to propose new measures to protect our economy, new measure to continue the development of the economies of the region, new measure also to make sure that our economy will become resilient and will be in the stronger position for the next crisis.
The follow-up meeting of CEMAC is holding simultaneously with that of the College of CEMAC Commissioners to prepare the Council of Ministers of the sub-region, which opens this Tuesday, August 10.
of Commercial Bank of Cameroon, CBC, Leanne Jumeau, has shared with customers in the littoral region, that is customer managers of enterprises and potential customers of CBC Bank, his experience and secret of the success story of a business organization like the one he heads. The forum centered on motivation and coaching, which the finance expert says have been the pillar of his achievement. This was during the 52nd edition of the Talk Motivation Conference organized by an association, Afrique Empowerment, that held in Cameroon's economic capital, Douala. Details with Learis Nane Epote from CRTV Douala.
By the Talk Motivation Conference, an initiative of the Afrique Empowerment Organization that took off in 2015, the objective remains to allow recognized and experienced experts in different walks of life to share their experiences and success stories. For this 52nd exchange platform, the Commercial Bank of Cameroon, CBC, has been honored. Its managing director in office since 2016 brings his expertise in business and finance to other heads of enterprises.
The main thing is communicate. That is, say what you are doing. When you are communicating, you are interesting people, isn't it? So, if you say something that is good, people will come and ask you, how do you do? And maybe they will feel more confidence to come and do business with you. So that's also what we need.
A rich exchange between participants with contributions from the CBC staff, which participants say their expectations have been met.
It's a brilliant initiative because bringing together customers and partners of a bank like this to share knowledge is an initiative which merits to be copied by others. The CBC Bank has shown us there is much in the future, that which I admire.
CBC, par ce geste, montre véritablement qu'elle se projette dans le futur.
To further ascertain CBC's potential customers, new measures are on the way to give the best of quality services.
Vous allez voir dans bientôt des kiosques.
Very soon, the CBC Bank will put at the disposal of its clients sales points in the form of kiosks with gap machines to do their monetary transactions without necessarily reaching the bank's counters. They can personally do their transactions.
Ils vont traiter personnellement les opérations.
At the end of the discussions, the company managers retained especially the guide to establishing social justice and objectivity in dishing out sanctions and the promotion and capacity building of young workers.
And in politics, a preparatory meeting for the renewal of the basic organs of the CPDM in the South was held today in Yaoundé. It was presided at by the President of the Regional Coordination Commission, Professor Jacques Famdongo, who prescribed discipline and order in the conduct of the exercise. Ebenezer Akanga was there and put together this report.
The preparatory meeting brought together vice presidents, members and chargés de mission of the Regional Coordination Commission for the South, as well as presidents, members and chargés de mission of the Divisional Control Commission. In his opening remarks, the president of the Regional Coordination Commission, Professor Jacques Famendongo, congratulated them on their designation and drew their attention to the delicate task that lie ahead of them. The task of organizing transparent polls, which will see the election of officials capable of maintaining the CPDM as the leading political force in the country. He prescribed discipline in the conduct of the exercise and insisted that the officials must be ones elected by grassroots supporters. Working documents and financial means from the Central Committee were handed to divisional control commissions. Closing the meeting, Professor Jacques Famendongo urged the members of the Divisional Control Commissions to make sure that the elections are organized in peace and order.
And to one of these lead stories, a consignment of 158,400 doses of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine arrived Cameroon last night via the Yaoundé-Simalène International Airport. The vaccine has been supplied by the African Vaccine Acquisition Trust in collaboration with some of its partners. On hand to receive the doses of the vaccine yesterday were the representatives of the African Center for Disease Control, the Chargé d'Affaires at the U.S. Embassy to Cameroon, and the Secretary General in the Ministry of Public Health. Baldwin Sama was also at the Simalène International Airport and came back with this report.
It comes as a booster to government's effort to have as many Cameroonians vaccinated against the coronavirus. This first consignment of over 150,000 doses of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine out of a stock of over 5 million doses, thanks to joint efforts by the African Vaccine Acquisition Trust in collaboration with partners like the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa.
Congratulations to the government of Cameroon for this initiative, for creating the foundations to ensure that more and more Cameroonians are vaccinated.
Receiving this first consignment under the African Union initiative at the Yaoundé Simalene International Airport, different speeches at the ceremony called on Cameroonians to have themselves vaccinated while explaining the efficacy of these vaccines. Considered a unique milestone for Africa, it is the first time that African Union members have collectively purchased vaccines to safeguard the health of the African population, an agreement worth $2 billion provided by the African Export and Imports Bank.
Despite our efforts, COVID-19 plunged many families into mourning and seriously hampered the functioning of our economy and society.
There has been growing concerns by persons wishing to travel out of Cameroon on delays of COVID-19 results tests. Of recent, people complain that they have missed their flights due to the late issuance of COVID-19 test results by some laboratories. Baldwin Sama and his guest, Dr. Joseph Fokam, will be telling us what exactly is responsible for these delays. They are at the Public Health Emergency Operations Center. Hello, Baldwin. Good evening and welcome.
Good evening to you, Gladys Tata. I should say actually you or any of your relatives may have been a victim lately and not having access to his or her COVID-19 PCR results before traveling. What exactly is happening at the level of some laboratories in Yaoundé as concerns the results of some Cameroonians who have to travel out of the country? Let's find out from Dr. Joseph Fokam, who is a virologist. Good evening to you, Doctor.
Good evening, Baldwin.
What exactly is happening with regards to some delays noticed recently with results of persons who wish to travel out of the country?
Effectively, Baldwin, we have been receiving some of those complaints, and as far as our policy is concerned, travelers are advised to get tested 48 hours before their departure. And what happens is that some of these travelers often comes very late, within 24 hours before their traveling hours. So what we do in the laboratory is that within these 24 hours, we are able to provide about 80% of the result that has been demanded. So we have a minimum of 20%, which often are those samples that requires retesting before confirming their result. So most of those cases are people who comes often very late, but we also realize there is a kind of heavy workload in the laboratories, so we are trying to also mitigate this situation actually. And what we also want last is to really advise Cameroonians, if you have your travel, please make sure you should come 48 hours before the departure, such that if we need to retest, then we have enough time to do that.
Thank you so much, Dr. Joseph Fokam, for all those explanations. You need to have your test, you need to have yourself screened 48 hours before traveling, so as for you to avoid being in a situation where a few hours to departure, you are not yet in possession of your COVID-19 results. Back to you, Gladys Tata.
Thank you very much, Baldwin Sama, and see you tomorrow. Sports pundits have blamed the poor performance of Cameroonian athletes at the just-ended Olympic Games in Tokyo to lack of adequate preparation. They say the low level of preparation of the athletes resulted in Team Cameroon not winning a single medal. Baldwin Sama has more.
A less convincing performance for Team Cameroon at this year's Olympic Games. 12 flag bearers who in their respective disciplines failed to lift the country's colours high.
We don't have the level, the condition to do the high level performance, and I think we have to work very hard to find out what we have to do to have the very, very great performance for Cameroon.
Lack of adequate preparation and professionalism, pundits say, marred Team Cameroon's performance.
We have to prepare for a long time. Preparation can be take 4 or 5 years. But in Cameroon, we want to prepare our athlete for 1 year, 6 months.
We have to put in place all the conditions to help the athletes to perform. We have to go to the mayor, to see the government, and to put proximity infrastructure, because it's not easy to work in that condition and to get very, very high performance.
Lessons must be drawn to avoid being simple figureheads in future similar competitions.
Well, as we all know, today is World Indigenous Peoples Day, and the people the Pygmies are known to be the first inhabitants of the equatorial forest, living in small groups across the 4 divisions of the South region under different names such as Babake, Begilis, or the Bakolas. Despite the influence of modernity and fashion, those indigenous people continue to hold tight onto many aspects of their original cultural identity. Clarence Aze in the following report paints a picture of the way of life of the Pygmies.
It is the dawn of a new day at the Minchombaka Pygmy settlement in Asok. To chase away the early morning cold, most of these indigenous forest people warm themselves over wood fire. Nearby, other activities are unfolding. The women preparing breakfast, while others try to look more beautiful, and the men out for hunting. Over 100 kilometers away, we find another group of pygmies. The Bageli are found in Akomtu in the Ocean Division. It is sunset and the hunters are back, a moment when the indigenous people commune with their Bantu brothers. The hunters bring us meat in exchange of other items like cigarettes, wine, slippers, or dresses. At nightfall, the entire community assembles at the courtyard of the chief's palace. The women beat the drums as their men display a folkloric dance known as Mpia. We dance the Mpia during special ceremonies like funerals. The climax of the Mpia is this epic performance reserved for the initiated. In the early hours of the following morning, men dance their way to the top of a palm tree barefooted, and surprisingly, none is hurt.
And we take you over to the far north region, where a permanent center for ex-fighters and associates of Boko Haram will soon be constructed in Meme in the far north region. Visiting the temporary center at Meri, the national coordinator of the National Disarmament, Demobilization and Reintegration Committee, Fayengo Francis, reassured the 936 occupants that the head of state is committed to facilitate their integration. CRTV's far north regional correspondent Sylvester Temken reports from Marwa.
In response to the Pacific call by President Paul Biya, more and more Boko Haram ex-fighters and associates have been surrendering to the multinational joint task force. While visiting the Meri Temporary Center, the National Coordinator for Disarmament, Demobilization and Reintegration observed that the total has increased to 936. A situation which he reassured that the head of state is aware of and has given corresponding instructions.
The numbers are increasing daily. The head of state gave express instructions that work should start here in the coming days.
The NDDRO boss also made a stopover at the transit center in Mora to take stock of new arrivals.
That group is predominantly made of Nigerians because of the good relationships that our country has with a neighboring country to the west. Even if 100,000 comes out today, they will not be more than Cameroonians to handle.
Local administrative and traditional authorities in the far north region have been working with the commission to facilitate the reintegration of the penitent.
And in continuation with our countdown to the draws of the 2021 Africa Cup of Nations built for Yaoundé Conference Center next August 17, focus tonight is on the CAF delegation, which is expected in Cameroon in the days ahead. The 50-man delegation will be headed by the president of CAF, Patrice Motsepe, who will be accompanied by other close aides. Details with Baldwin Sama once more.
It is a 50-man strong delegation from the Confederation of African Football that will be coming to Cameroon. A delegation led by the President of the African Football Confederation, Patrice Motsepe, will make use of his maiden visits to Cameroon to consolidate strong and cordial relations between CAF and the host country of the 2021 Africa Cup of Nations. A delegation made up of the 5 vice presidents, 17 bureau members, and a general secretary. 2 advisors to the president of the Confederation of African Football, CAF, will be in Cameroon, and other personnel from security, protocol, competition, marketing, communication, and travel departments expected to be in Cameroon. Are telling signs of how CAF uses Cameroon as a springboard to make such a ceremony unique. With each sector of CAF to be present in Cameroon, this means little details ahead of the draw ceremony will be looked into, as the Yaoundé Conference Center is expected to host a CAF Executive Committee meeting with the stay of the CAF delegation to permit them enjoy the country's legendary hospitality.
And that does it on this edition of the 7:30 News. Thanks for watching. You'll be in the company of Romuald Chwisengok at 8:30.
You once again to put on your face masks, to wash your hands regularly, and to consult a physician or any other health personnel if you notice any symptoms. This is the only way to save lives and to curb the spread of the virus.